doing sit-ups. I've been doing chin-ups. I've been doing pull-ups. I threw up once, but I'm okay now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of the YSN Power Hour. DJ Yoakley here, Richie Giuliano there, and we got a good show for you, Rich. To be honest with you, let's just be fully transparent. We don't know what the hell we're talking about today. You were on Running Point for 2 hours. I was hanging out with Coach Hake. Don't even get me started on that. It's my favorite time, man. Like there's different favorite times. I always say it's my favorite time, my favorite person, all this stuff. But to compartmentalize, to spend an entire morning / afternoon with Andy Hake, I get to do it every Wednesday, and it's a godsend.
I like when you started the interview today. He goes, "We're lucky to be 4-0." I'm like, what?
Cold-blooded. And I'll tell you this. I'm starting to get his mannerisms. Oh, and by the way, guess what we're doing on Saturday night?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Little level up, Mr. Giuliano.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we got a long day then. We're going
cross-country.
Yeah. What time are we done?
2, I think we should be all pretty wrapped up. So let's just put it this way. YSN's got you covered the entire day. And you know what, Anthony Romo? You know what happens? You know what happens, Anthony Romo, when you decide that you're not going to join? You just made the list. Not Jamie Thompson's list either. DJ Yoakley's list. Because people would give a down payment on a house to do what we're going to do on Saturday night. That's hang out with Andy Hake, mic him up, and get him leveled up.
That's going to be
they take on the Lisbon Blue Devils, which I think, listen, that's a team that's hungry. I don't know what's going to happen. Anything can happen on a Saturday night in Campbell Memorial. But did you watch all that interview?
I watched the majority of it this morning. I was kind of prepping for the show a little bit. So
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support.
It was funny.
It's gonna be good. It's funny. I never know kind of where he's gonna go. He just kind of like
you're asking about one thing. He starts rattling off every quarterback that's good in the Mahoning Valley area for the next 2 minutes.
Didn't know where I was headed. Like it's like herding cats, and I love it. And his interviews are so fun. And then you turn off everything and you just start talking to him. Same guy on the air and off the air. You get what you get with Andy Hake. You know what time it is. Let's start the show officially. It's time for On This Day in Sports History, and let's roll that beautiful bean footage. All right, I got to find it because I just had it and it's not there anymore. Oh, here it is. Richard, do you happen to know what happened on this day in sports history in 2003?
I do not.
Okay. Baltimore Raven running back Jamal Lewis sets the NFL single-game rushing record when he runs for 295 yards and 2 touchdowns on 30 carries in the Ravens' 33-13 victory over
I have a feeling it's going to be the Browns.
The Cleveland Browns, my friend. I can't remember for the life of me if he was there before or after, but he was a Cleveland Brown, and I'm pretty sure it was before.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that, what is one team that you would love to see a former player come back and absolutely kick the curb stomp out of, like Jamal Lewis did to Cleveland?
Former player of any team?
Yeah, any team, and just come back and just beat the living daylights out of them.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of some good players that have left. I mean, there's
Tampa
a lot.
Tom?
Probably Jim Thome. Coming
Ooh.
back and smoking the White Sox.
Oh, well, as an Indian, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting, because he was a former Indian, then he was an Indian again.
Yeah.
You and your dang Cleveland sports.
Well, who else would I pick? I don't know who else I would even pick.
What about Tom Brady?
Yeah, but I kind of like the Patriots though. I don't hate the Patriots.
I don't hate the Patriots either, but
I like Bill Belichick. Like, I don't know. I don't.
Struthers guy.
I don't really care, if he would come back and beat the Patriots, because he's probably going to. I did want. What was that? Monday Night Football. I did want Russell Wilson to come back and beat the Seahawks.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
No, that didn't.
Fourth and 5, and you send in your kicker
with 40 seconds left. They could have called timeout, ran another play for 10 yards, and then sent out a manageable 50-yarder.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, if I'm the general manager or owner of the Broncos and they trot out some scrub kicker and I'm paying the quarterback $1 billion and just gave him, gave the Seahawks half of my first round stock for the next 25 years, you're not going to be around very long.
No.
I mean, 4th and 5 is manageable in the NFL nowadays. It used to be no chance, right? Now it's whoa, easy, camera. It was following my hand. I just had a little I got to keep everything down, I guess.
It's on your every move.
And now it is. It doesn't do it ever. Craig and Eric say, I'll never forget the show you did last year with Andy and Coach Spate. That was hilarious. Two great personalities in one show. That was an all-timer. No doubt about it. Kristen Seidler says LBJ, OBJ as well. So OBJ coming back and beating the Browns, I don't think would do anything for anybody.
Not really, no.
OBJ's not even in the league right now, is he?
I don't know where he's at.
I think I used Siri the other day, and she said that he is no longer in the league, if I'm not mistaken. But you could be better than Siri. I think he's free agent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's not playing. My goodness, what a downfall that was.
Well, it wins a ring. That's all he needs. Now he's handing out hundos in LSU's locker room again because he can. All right, so let's discuss essentially some big things. So there's not a whole lot going on locally from news. We've beat the polls into the ground, the power rankings. So let's talk a little bit of something a thing or two about, and that's the game of baseball, my friend. There's been 3 rule changes that are coming up, and there's a whole lot of people that are not crazy about them.
Mm-hmm.
We'll localize this. We'll have a spin, so don't go very far. But when you're looking at the shift being banned, bigger bases, and a pitch clock, what are you like? Are you for any of those?
I'm for the pitch clock. I'm a big fan of that pitch clock. When you look at the game of baseball, I think what's hurting the game right now is it's in between pitches, and that's what's taking a lot of the time. And games are averaging 3.5 to 4 hours on a nightly basis. And people say, "Oh yeah, it's the same time for football as well." They're 4-hour games. Well, they're 4 hours, but they're manageable because it's one day. Baseball is being played all 7 days a week.
Yep.
It's taxing on the fans. It's taxing on the players. And listen, I'm as much as a baseball fan as anybody else. And, I love the old school style of baseball. But what the pitch clock has done in the minor leagues cannot go unnoticed. It has shortened games by half an hour down to 2.5 on average. 3 is kind of a long game now in the minors. And it has been proven that there's really been no difference in the style of play when you shorten that pitch clock down to 15 seconds, which I think is the right thing. And the minor leagues have done this for the last 2 years. And, they've done so many studies on it, and Major League Baseball is trying to take what they're doing and implement it into their style next year, because it's having no altering effect on the game itself, but the time. And it's, if you could take a baseball game and you could shorten it by 30 minutes, that is huge.
Well, yeah. And what they don't want to do, Rich, is take out the commercials, because that's how they're building revenue around their games. So what's interesting to me from that standpoint is I think your point is the most valid one I've ever heard, is this is a game that happens 6 to 7 days a week. And yes, football takes 3 to 4 hours to be played, sometimes longer if you guys can't make a dang field goal in your game. But when you look at that, it's not an abundance week after, day after day after day, week after week. People can consume 4 hours. They can be okay with that. In fact, there's some people, like, I don't know, the guy you're talking to right now, that can sit for 8 hours and watch and ingest all of that football and not turn away or be turned off. Do you think baseball fans will come back if games are 2.5 hours or 2 hours and 15 minutes?
It's tough to say whether the fan base will come back or not. I think it's going to help a lot to get people into parks. I think that's the biggest factor, is you want to get people into parks, and MLB attendance has been down the last couple of years. Games are long, prices are out the wazoo. And, I think these rules are going to help people get into the parks, and that hopefully translates to watching on TV as well. So, that's just one particular rule that I am in favor of in the pitch clock. The bigger bases, it's kind of confusing. I don't really see much of a need for a bigger base. I think they're going from 15 inches to 18 inches. I think that just will help base runners. When you think about it, I think we're going to have a increase in stolen base success rate when you look at it. And I think it's going to help avoid collisions like on double play balls. But other than that, I don't know. I don't really see the need for a bigger base. I mean, home plate's unchanged. You're not going to change the home plate dimensions, but from 15 to 18, I guess it's 3 inches. Not a huge impact.
I don't understand it. I'll be honest. I have no idea of why they would change that. And catchers everywhere have to be sitting there shaking their heads like, you got to be kidding me. Like, these guys are running at, you think, Yadier Molina is only throwing out 20% of runners.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to probably go down by 10%. And Yadi Molina is one of the best catchers of all time. So again, we're leaning towards offense, but we don't want juice baseballs. We don't want steroids. We don't want any of that stuff. But hey, give the base runner an extra 3 inches so they can get themselves in scoring. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, I don't like that one. I think they're just trying to get guys to steal bases more frequently, because the base stealing percentage is way down. And, the catchers are just so good these days that it's very difficult to steal a base. Mm-hmm. So I think they're trying to give different advantages to the base runners and, like you said, get guys in scoring position to score. But, when you look at this too, it also kind of helps when you're kind of in the way of receiving a throw. You know what I mean? Like, a first baseman's going to have a little bit more of a secure position over there to where runners aren't colliding with their back ankle. So it does help player safety a tad bit, but, not by an extreme margin. And, their third one and their third rule change. And, this is the one I'm opposed to, is the defensive shift limits. Taking away that shift, it kills a proponent of the game of baseball. People play the shift because they have the advantage, righty against a lefty that rolls over an inside changeup. Without that, you're going to see guys like Max Kepler, who plays for the Minnesota Twins. He's going to be an all-star 8 consecutive years. Kepler's a guy that pulls almost every single ball. He hasn't learned to hit the ball the other way, and because of that, he leads the league in outs per shift. So, I mean, you're going to have those guys that are licking their chops saying, hey, let's go. Like, I love this. Like, I'm going to be hitting, 17 to 18 more extra base hits than I was last year.
What's a rule in any other sport that you think would be a silly rule as much as the one that is 18 inches for a base bag?
A silly rule for any other sport. I would say taking away the offsides penalty in soccer.
Oh boy,
I feel like that would be a silly rule because then
that would be bananas.
That'd be bananas. Like, say soccer was trying to increase the amount of goals. Because let's be honest, the amount of goals scored in a match are maybe 1 to 2 in some matches if it's a really good team. You take away that offsides, man, people are flying down the field. You're getting shots on goal left and right.
Cherry picking.
Yeah,
I would love it. I would love soccer if that was the case. No offsides. Let's go. I'm just hanging out in the corner, vulturing all these goals.
It'd be like basketball.
Yes.
You play 4-on-5, and then the cherry picker runs down the floor and gets that fast break layup.
It's the old man in the gym when you're doing pickup basketball, the guy that doesn't run down and play defense. It's just he's hanging out there waiting for you in 3-point land. He just goes from it's the Quentin Pushkar method. You go from line to line based on the 3-pointer. What about football? No pass interference.
Oh, see, I don't know if you could do that because, what's the point of passing then? Nobody would be able to complete a pass. You know
exactly.
what I mean?
How fun would that be?
It would be horrible though. Like offensively, you don't even be able to run the ball.
Oh, look who's back!
I saw he's back for running point too. It has to be a YSN guy.
I'm sorry, but Major League Baseball has done nothing for me. All they have done is take my money and give me cold hot dogs.
I really want to know who that is. I feel like it's somebody we would know.
Well, it's in O'Brien's brother.
They're consistent. Like they're on Running Point, they're on Power Hour, and they're on our Super Show on Friday when Ian comes on. So I feel
what if it was all a Fugazi, whatever it is, and it's actually Ian O'Brien.
I feel like one day we got to invite Ian O'Brien's brother. He puts on a black screen on the Power Hour so nobody can see him, but he talks
with a voice changer.
Yeah, like a voice changer. Yeah, he talks.
I'm sorry, but Major League Baseball is doing nothing for me. All they've done is take my money and give me cold hot dogs.
He'd go on and be like, Niles loses by 50.
Ian, pick up the pace a little bit. You're slowing the show down. It is going to be a great show on Friday. Not to get off topic here, but there's a lot of teams that, Richie, you can go either way as you look at the schedule this Friday. Unbelievable. I mean, somebody's got to pick Jackson Milton, right? Somebody's got to pick Lowellville. Somebody's got to pick Cheney. Somebody's got to pick Canfield. This is where the rubber meets the road. And you came in and you planted your flag on Monday and said, I'm done being a company guy. I'm picking to win.
I got to pick to win. I'm falling behind bad. I'm looking at the YSN totals right now, and I'm 11 games out of first place. I'm worse than the
Pirates right now.
Pirates right now.
And when you got Siggy who no holds barred. I mean, he is just lighting the world on fire.
I'm taking the Siggy mentality.
You got to be careful with that. That's a blessing and a curse.
I'm going for it. I know there's a couple games that, you could pick the YSN school to be the company guy, but it might go the other way. And I think it's time. And I'm taking notes and I'm coming this week. I'm ready.
Is the advantage he's got 11 games on you?
Yeah, it's going to be tough to come back. Although we're not halfway through yet. I mean, I could gain 4 or 5 games a week and be back in the hunt.
You could, but you got to pick away from what he does. So you're going to have to take some risks.
I'm going to have to take some big risks.
The question is, who's he going to take in the Canfield Cheney game?
Canfield. There's no way he's going to take Cheney.
So do you go Cheney just to see how that would be crazy?
I'll put it in right now, Cheney. I'll pick every game the other way and then have him pick and then go back in.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be fun. What's another game that you're looking forward to this week, maybe other than the Canfield Cheney game?
Lewis J. Bennett, the team from Buffalo, coming to Fitch. I've heard a lot of good things about that program and Bennett, who were, I believe, somewhere in the state finals or semifinals a couple years ago in New York. They're out of Buffalo, so bolsters the schedule again for Austintown Fitch. Looking forward to that matchup on Friday, and I think one that is kind of overlooked right now, and I think you're going to have a great call of, is Poland and South Range. We'll see what Poland does. South Range did not play their best football last week, and if they do the same on Friday night, I think Poland, if they have their pieces back in that puzzle, they're going to be able to put up a good fight.
Who do you have in last place? Craig and Eric want to know.
Well, a lot of problem is that a lot of people didn't pick some weeks, but
sell them all out, buddy.
Right now, I'm going through the list. McKenzie is close to last. Tim Figley doesn't count because he wasn't in the group message until week 3, so I'm not going to count him. Right now, McKenzie's 72-30.
It's still not bad.
No, it's not. Mowry didn't pick the last 2 weeks, so he only has 49 wins. Yeah, it's McKenzie really is the one that is picked consistently, and he's taken some bold ones. He took East Palestine over Campbell a couple weeks ago.
The chosen son. He's a company guy.
He is.
Don't get it twisted, says Mike. West Branch struggled with Howland last year. This is potential to be a sneaky good game. Yeah, but I think West Branch learned a thing or two from last year as well. I think I'm trying to remember who was the game after that, because that was like a trap game. It might have been the same situation where they played Howland right before they started in the conference play.
Let me look it up. Last year, West Branch, they played Howland then Carrollton.
That's what it was. See,
and
Howland,
Howland,
I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, good call. Howland, they did put up a fight. They beat them 37-34. That's a good call there by Mike. That's kind of crazy, actually. And they beat Salem in overtime, 43-42 in that thrilling game in the rivalry. And then they went on that stretch in the playoffs, beating CVCA, Poland, and then Perry, which is a good opponent. And then, Ursuline got the best of that matchup last year.
Siggy says, Girard versus Lakeview. Can Girard stay focused with Lakeview sandwiched between Jefferson and South Range?
Yeah, it's a big one for Girard.
Big one for Lakeview.
If they could beat Lakeview, and I don't know, I think Lakeview is tougher than a lot of people think, especially defensively. But if they do beat Lakeview, my goodness, do they ride the high horse into that South Range matchup in week number 6?
Well, wait a minute. Let's just put the brakes. And I'm not saying this because I'm a South Range guy. But, Richie, you got to think, if South Range can bounce back from last week and go back to form against a Poland team that has given them trouble over the last 3 years without a shadow of a doubt.
Yep.
I think people start recognizing South Range again. Do I think it's going to – I mean, I have concerns. I have legitimate concerns. Cannot wait to talk to Coach Yeagley tonight and discuss, what he saw last week. But if they put it to Poland this week, Girard might be on watch.
Yeah. Well, I don't think any respect has been lost from South Range. Even though they barely beat Struthers with 6 turnovers, it's still a win. And they beat Kent Central Catholic, and a lot of people are seeing that win saying they just beat Salem. So, I still think they have a lot of teams respect around the area, especially after coming out and, throat punching 2 good schools in Springfield and, University, who's Division III. So, I don't think they've lost respect from anybody, but, everybody likes to compare to seasons in the past, right? I mean, is South Range as good as they were last season? Right now, I don't think a lot of people think they are.
And there's a lot of people that sit there and they go, okay, we talk about Jimmy's and Joe's a lot, and they start wondering, okay, who's the guy that's going to carry them? If the passing game isn't working, as it wasn't the other night, who's the guy that's going to carry? I mean, they got 4 guys that they can go to. Blake Ewert, who has been sensational this year. Tyler Remish, Jake Starkey. I mean, you can run end arounds with Shane Lindstrom, but it was almost like South Range simplified everything last Friday night just to get back on the tracks. Now, I hear you when you say that people are still respecting South Range. I'm here for it. But I think there's a difference between respecting South Range or a team like South Range and being concerned for a team like South Range, because can they get back to form in 1 week? Because now you are in NE8 territory, you're in conference play, you get no weeks off because this league is legit.
Yeah. No, this is the hardest league this year, without a doubt. I think their league play is going to be a juggernaut. And Struthers, to open it up, who has 1 win this season, and look at the score in that game, there's not a single week where you can lay down to an opponent. I mean, this is going to be a tough schedule for every NE8 team.
Craig and Eric saying, would like to get your thoughts on this, but I think Alliance can most definitely beat West Branch this year with all the talent they have. I mean, Alliance not one of our teams, but what do you think?
I think they're really good. I think their one loss is to Uniontown Lake, who we're going to see a little bit of on YSN this week. They play one of our teams, and Lake's undefeated right now, and they're coming out of that Federal League, and they played some really good football. We have seen them on YSN in one other game against Niles. They took care of the Red Dragons on the road, 55-28. They just beat Bedford and Norwalk, scoring 47 and 49. And, I guess we're going to see what they're all about. They're going to play Canton Central Catholic this week. So that's a good comparison for us to see where Alliance is at compared to some of our other schools. But when you look at the Aviators, and, not that they're a YSN school, but still want to give them some limelight, they got 2 explosive guys. The receiver, Ramir Hawkins, who has over 100 yards a game receiving. And then their running back, Davis is his last name. He's got like 150 yards per game. So 2 explosive guys they kind of lean on offensively. And if West Branch isn't able to stop them, it's going to be trouble. And I think Alliance West Branch is going to be one of those games that will probably give one of the best tests to the Warriors outside of Campfield in week 1.
When you think about West Branch, you're thinking punch you in the mouth football. And that's really what EBC football is anyway. Mm-hmm. It's a slobber knocker, jaw dropping kind of football, different than the NE8, because I don't want to sit here and tell you that the NE8's more finesse, because there's a lot of hard hitting in that conference as well. But I think there's a little bit more air raid offense to the NE8 than there is to necessarily, Drew DeShields and obviously Jackson Johnson aside. I think there's a little bit more, punch in the mouth, running the gaps football in the EBC. So that said, West Branch still runs it. I really believe that, Alliance is probably very skilled, and I don't know enough to keep a conversation afloat. But I will say this, is that anytime you've got number 12 in the backfield, not only do you have a chance, you have a pretty damn good chance to not only win a ball game, but run away with it.
Yeah. There's no doubts with West Branch. Listen, Campfield's the number 2 ranked team in Division 3. West Branch played up a division, and they almost beat them at home. Like, that final score was 35-31. Let's not forget that. Like, West Branch, who came in as the underdog heavily, nobody thought they even stood a chance, thought they were going to lose by 2 touchdowns, and it was down to the last possession where, Campfield, they played well in the 2-minute drill. They got 2 first downs, and they were able to kneel it to win. But, outside of that, if there was a turnover, West Branch comes away with a victory in week number 1 against one of the best teams in the Valley in Campfield. And, who says that they're not a good team when they're taking care of business against Woodridge, Revere, and Ridgewood, all 3 of those in a row, beating up all 3 of those opponents?
Richie, here's a question I want you to ponder while we take a break. Who is the most disrespected team or teams in our coverage area, in the YSN family? Who's the one that never gets enough love or constantly gets looked over? We're going to talk about that when we come back on the YSN Power.
Locally owned and operated, Sheely's relaxed shopping experience means browsing and lounging is always encouraged.
Find Flex Deal and more at Sheely's Furniture and Appliance, because the best things in life happen at home.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring golf instruction by PGA professionals, a state-of-the-art practice range, a PGA of America recognized pro shop, kids programs, and a relaxing grill room for a memorable golf experience. For more information or to schedule a tee time, visit millcreekmetroparks.org.
Fall is in the air. The kids are back to school, crowds are cheering for the home team, and Myers Family Insurance is prepped for another crazy Medicare season. Every year there's changes, some big, some small, so it's important to have a conversation to make sure your plan is going to meet your expectations for the coming year. Give our team a call today to schedule your annual review.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance or visit us on the web. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com.
Going from mindful to mindful sometimes requires a helping, healing hand. Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness offers a continuum of mental health and wellness care. At Insight, we're changing the way you receive counseling and wellness services with experienced licensed clinicians and expertly trained wellness staff. With 4 locations in Mahoning and Columbiana County, along with telehealth services, Insight offers clients quick access to care when they need it. Transform your mental health and wellness at Insight Clinical Counseling and Wellness.
All right, Rich. We talked about it before the break. I tried to load Brian Tonar's Brian's Basics during the break. Didn't load for me. So once again, I am indebted to our golf guru who we love so much. So you'll be able to see that on ysnlive.com after the show when I'm able to upload it to YouTube and get a story written for it. But before the break, I asked you to ponder. Who do you think is the most disrespected teams or teams that are often looked over on the network?
You know, I'm going to have to go with Garfield for one of them. You know, I think Garfield has been one of the best football programs around our area the last couple of years that you don't hear much about unless, you know, we're talking about it on our shows. You know, I mean, look what they did last year. They were 12-1. They were 6-0 in their conference. They lost to Kirtland in the playoffs. But outside of that, they were undefeated going into that playoff matchup, and they beat some big schools. They beat Lakeview, JFK last year, and they're already off to another great start this season without their JFK loss. That's another team that's 4-0 again. So I think Garfield's a team that kind of gets looked over in our area, especially because they're kind of on the outskirts up there. That's definitely a program where they produce some good athletes. I know volleyball-wise, they're having a great season as well. So that's my first pick. I got a couple, but I'll let you go.
So I've got a question for you because I don't understand this. I'm starting to comprehend it more now than ever. What is there out there about Canfield that people just don't like? Like anytime Canfield's at the top of a poll or we're talking about Canfield or Canfield is talked about in any capacity, it's like instant polarization. It's, you know, why are we talking about Canfield? Why are we talking like, to me, Canfield is pretty daggone good across the board when you look at them, especially as of late. You talk about baseball, you talk about volleyball, you talk about soccer, all these sports, Canfield excelling in. But when we talk football, it's the same narrative, but there's no respect. You've got one of the best players, bar none, in the entire viewing area, in Brock Lowry. And there's a lot of people that are talking about him, but a lot of people that won't, just out of spite. What is it with Canfield?
Nobody likes Canfield.
Why?
Well, I mean, you know, I don't want to sound like a turd here, but they win at everything. Canfield's pretty good at everything.
Are they the Yankees?
I wouldn't say the Yankees because, you know, there's not too many state championships that we've won in the last 10 years. We do have a couple. 2007 baseball won it, and then softball won it the next year or the year before. 2006 and 2007. But, you know, nobody likes Canfield because they win. I think everybody refers to this area as like snobby a little bit. So I think that it's Canfield and Poland are the two communities with people looking outside that don't like Canfield and Poland because of that, because they're good communities. They're nice places to live, and they don't like the winning at like they want to be Canfield and Poland. You know what I mean? Like they're on the outside kind of looking in like we want to be that program, but we're just not there yet. I know that's a little that's reality. That's just reality. Just
that's interesting. Okay, so we're gonna play a game. I'm gonna let you do your second team that goes under the radar. Then we're gonna play a little game. We'll answer Jeff's question as well. Go ahead with your second team.
My second team would be Lakeview. I don't think Lakeview gets as much credit as they have. I think everybody kind of jumped off the ship with the way that they had a tough year last year, and without us covering their volleyball team, who would? I think Lakeview is one of the best volleyball teams right now in their division. They're undefeated. They're really good. They're atop our power rankings, and I don't see them slowing down anytime soon. So I think Lakeview is another team that always gets overlooked because maybe in the past they haven't had too many successful years, but I still think that they're a program that generates really good athletes all around in every sport.
Let's go to Jeff's question now. He says, what teams do you guys think can make a run in the playoffs but do not have the best record at the moment? That's a great question.
I would say one, but they got to get into the playoff first, would be Springfield. I think Springfield, if they get hot, they can make a run. They've got new offensive pieces that just have not been able to mold together quite yet through 4 weeks, and they played a really difficult schedule. But when you look at their division, D7, I think if they could get in, they could beat some of the top seeds, and they have beat some of these top seeds in the past with some of their better teams. So I think if Springfield is able to get in, I think they can make a run at things. They played some close games already, almost took down Lowville at home last week. So I think that's a team that, could get in. If they do get in, they can make a run.
So let's clarify real quick. Make a run is 2 games, 3 games?
I would say 2 or 3.
Okay. So if that's the case, if 2's the bar, I'm going to go with the Cardinal Mooney Cardinals because I've seen the progression of Ashton O'Brien over the last 3 years, and this young man has grown right before our eyes on YSN. He's making some good calls, good choices. He's got a great offensive coordinator in Rick Shepis, where I think he's allowing AOB to kind of learn a little bit on his own. He's got some great receivers in Nolan Rudinsky and Alec Del Signor. And I think that when you boil it down, if that was a very good and old Lindsley team that they beat. I mean, supposedly they had kids that were 5th-year seniors on their team. They're not eligible for the playoffs. So every game means so much to them. Not that it doesn't mean anything to Cardinal Mooney or anybody that Lindsley plays, but there's a little bit of a difference. You're sitting there at 22 years old, Rich. When you were 18, your body was a little bit different when you were 19. You started filling in a little bit more. If that's the case, I'm really interested to see, because Cardinal Mooney kept in there with Cheney.
Mm-hmm.
What can Cardinal Mooney do if they can kind of right the ship here and make a run towards the playoffs?
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I think that's a great pick on your end. I think Cardinal Mooney, they've had some good games. They've had some bad games. I know going down to West Virginia was probably one of their tougher losses against Lindsley because, that's a team that they could have beat on the road, in my opinion. And, they dropped that one. But, they've shown signs of promise when they came back in Mineral Ridge and they won that game. And then they've shown a little bit of disappointment like against Lindsley. But if they get it together, I think that's a team that, can shock a couple people, especially if they're a 13 through 16 seed in the playoffs.
All right. You ready to play a game?
I'm ready.
All right. It's going to be, what NFL team
oh boy
is linked and most similar to a team that we cover on YSN?
Okay.
Like similarities. And you take one, I'll take one, you take one, I'll take one until we kind of run out of time. You got 20 minutes. So we probably can get through all of them.
Okay.
When you're thinking about the Washington Commanders,
oh Lord,
you get the first tough one. The Commanders. Who does it remind you of? It could be colors. It could be, Yeah, the way that they stack up, the Washington Commanders.
That's just a random selection.
I just looked up NFL franchises, and Washington Commanders are number 1.
All right, so Washington, they got a diversity of weapons, but that's about it. They're kind of struggle defensively. I'm gonna have to go. Can I compare it with any team this year or last year?
Doesn't matter. That's fine.
LeBray last year.
Oh, okay.
LeBray last year they had 2 good weapons, and Carter, their running back, who was really good, kind of like a Robinson for Washington. I'm going to go with LeBray in 2021 with the weapons. You never knew what you're going to get defensively from that team, and that's kind of how I feel with the Commanders. They got one good defensive end, and LeBray had one really good defensive lineman last year, so I'm going to go with them.
That's interesting. I was going to go with Struthers for the Commanders because you did talk about you got some weapons, but the defense seems to struggle a little bit. That's kind of the MO for Struthers this year. And I think that if they can get those weapons involved, just as the Commanders, I think Struthers can turn this baby around. In fact, that might be a great answer to Jeff's question of a team that can make some noise. I mean, he saw what they did to South Range last week. Could be that perfect scenario and perfect storm for Struthers. All right. The New England Patriots. This year's New England Patriots. So we're talking about a team that just lost to Miami. I'm going to go with, a team that once was all the rage and has kind of fallen from grace, trying to find themselves again. This is going to sound silly. I'm going to go with the East Palestine Bulldogs.
All right.
A team that, there's a lot of rich tradition around this town and especially around the football program. The Patriots, you don't know what you're going to get from week to week. There's a lot of hype around them. There's a lot of people that think they can win every week in the same way in East Palestine. So I'm going to go East Palestine and New England in the same boat. You ready for your pick?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to go with Brookfield here.
Ooh.
Because Brookfield, after that tough loss in week number 1, they've got such great leadership, and I think that is what connects both the Patriots and Brookfield. They got 2 great head coaches, great coaching staffs, and I think that's a team that you go out and you look at. They have a chance to win every single week. And that's a good program at Brookfield that's been good for the past couple of years. And, like you said, they're kind of trying to find themselves this year after that week 1 loss, and they're bouncing back like a New England Patriot would do. So I'm going to have to pick Brookfield.
Chicago Bears.
Oof. All right, new quarterback.
Relatively new quarterback.
Relatively new. Champion.
Joey Fell.
I'm going to go Joey Fell. Because they got a talented quarterback in Joey Fell, kind of like a Justin Fields who can do it all. He could run, he could throw. So just the quarterback comparison there, I'm going to have to go with Champion. And kind of the same situation as Chicago, like a team last year who wasn't very good and is looking to prove people wrong this season. Like Champion last year was 2-8. They had a tough season. They were young. They were inexperienced on the line. Same with the Bears. Look what Chicago did against the 49ers. They pushed them around in that mud fest. And I think that's what Champion has done to a couple of teams early on. Like Southeast, they pushed them around. Their last week they won. They pushed them around too. So I'm going to have to go to Champion.
Not afraid to lose or to win ugly and just definitely doesn't want to lose pretty. So I'm with you on that. That one's spot on, my friend. Let's go New York Giants. I'm going to go with Beaver Local. Because here's my connection. There's not a lot of people that looked at Beaver Local and thought they were going to do much around these parts. And here they are, obviously a tough start to the season. And all of a sudden you got dudes picking off 5 passes, 5 touchdowns, all that stuff. And now nominated for the big dog. You got Austin Klein. Even though it's, East Liverpool isn't necessarily bright lights in the big city, I think there's a lot of Big Apple in Beaver Local when it comes down to it.
Give me Valley Christian. Hate squad. I think when you compare the Giants to Valley Christian, there's one thing that stands out, and that's a great running back. Saquon Barkley for the Giants, and then our Baird brother, Big Dog of the Valley nominee, and Jay Sean Lindsay. I think after that performance against United, I like that comparison with the Giants and Valley Christian, kind of a team up in the air, right? I mean, is this the year for Valley Christian to succeed? And I think it is. And, for the Giants, they're not going to be as good as Valley Christian in the win-loss column, but I think they still have some talent on the field and could win some ball games.
Green Bay Packers.
All right, so you got to have a very experienced quarterback.
That lost some weapons.
Yeah, they lost a little bit.
South Range.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think they still have a great quarterback. They lost a lot. Obviously, the running back going to YSU. Yeah, I'll agree with you there. I'll stay with you and go South Range on that, because the Packers are still going to be good. Despite that week 1 loss, they're still going to be good, and so is South Range.
They expect the Packers to always be there in the playoffs, and that's kind of the way that everybody feels about South Range. So I think that is dead on. All right, buddy. You and me, back-to-back picks. The Cleveland Browns, I get the first stab at this one. I'm going to go with – I had one team in mind. Oh, goodness. Who do I go with here? You have one?
Mm-hmm.
Go for it.
Newton Falls.
Newton Falls.
2 great running backs. Cameron Brainard and Carter Rapsack. You got Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in the backfield. I think 2 guys that when you give them the football, they're going to be able to pound the rock, and they're going to get a lot of yards after contact. So I'm going to go with Newton Falls. Defensively, I think Newton Falls is better than they've showed so far this season, and they've lost some heartbreaking games. And I hate to compare it to the Browns because they can't win close games, but that's really how it's been this year for the Tigers. They've lost close games.
I'm torn here because there's 2 teams that I think could be Cleveland. So I'm just going to shout them both out. The first one's Jackson Milton, because I think there's a lot of people thinking for the first 11 weeks that they are not going to be very good. And I personally believe they're going to overachieve. I think they're going to win more games than they lose, and set themselves up nicely, possibly for a playoff run, depending on how the rest of the AFC North goes. With injuries and all the hubbub in Baltimore about their quarterback. So I'm going to go Browns and Jackson Milton on one side, and on the other side, Jefferson. I mean, Jefferson, to me, we talk about all the points that they put up. They go up against Gerard. They're shut down to 6. How will they respond? And I think that's kind of the tale of Cleveland right now, is how are the Browns going to respond to the adversity that they're facing in weeks 1 through 11. So give me Jackson Milton on one side and Jefferson on the other. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Chaney.
Wow, that was
Chaney.
fast.
Chaney's got some weapons, new quarterback, new look for the offense. The only thing that doesn't relate from Chaney to Pittsburgh is the head coach. You got a new head coach. And of course, Tomlin's been there forever, and he wins every year. But, you could say the same for Antrim and what he's going to do with Chaney. I have a feeling that they're going to have consecutive winning seasons with him at the helm. And I think Chaney, when you look at him, you got a guy like Jason Mill Austin, who's a running back. He's a ground and pound guy. You got Hewlett on the outside. You got DJ Waller on the outside, some weapons at the receiving end, and then a new quarterback this year. So it kind of fits with Pittsburgh and their scheme. And when you look at TJ Watt, good news for him, actually not having to have surgery. And then you could kind of say the same about their defensive line: quick, athletic, and tough.
There's a lot of people that are going to throw open their mouth a little bit when I say this, but Warren JFK reminds me of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They just keep, they don't lose. They don't have losing seasons. They just go, and whatever it takes to get in the playoffs, and then they, do their thing, right? It's win some, you lose some. And, the Steelers and Warren JFK, I mean, they are built and cut from the same cloth. All right, Dallas Cowboys. This, to me, is Crestview. Crestview is going to be – Dallas is going to be in some really close games at the beginning of this season. A lot of people looking at that Tampa Bay game saying it wasn't close. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of points scored for a guy named Tom Brady. So heartbreaking losses early on in the season for Crestview. Same with Dallas, and people have this expectation when they see that CR on your helmet or the CR on your jersey, the same way that when they see that star or that rating, I guess is what people are calling it now. It's a 1-star rating. It's not a logo. So who oozes Dallas Cowboys for you there, Richard?
Springfield. I think Dallas Cowboys for me. I mean, a team that everybody looks at that has such high expectations every year, great following in their community, always pack the stands. They get a lot of media coverage, especially with Bo Brungard last year and the pieces that they had, their offensive line. And I think that, I don't want to say that the Dallas Cowboys aren't going to be very good this year, but, Springfield's off to a tough start. And I think that's kind of related to the Cowboys' first couple of weeks. I don't think they're going to be, as good as they were in the past.
All right. Los Angeles Rams.
Rams, I'm going to go with Jefferson. Kind of flip-flop from what you said. Jefferson, good quarterback. Hitchcock, good weapons on the outside, powerful offense. Little bit away from everybody. Jefferson's a pretty far drive for us. When you look at the Rams, I mean, they're kind of, out there. So I'm going to go with them.
I'm going to go with the Ursuline Irish and the Rams. You talking about a championship caliber team that is coming off a tough loss. You're looking at the Rams. You're looking at Ursuline. How are they going to respond? Are they going to respond like champions, or are they going to respond by making excuses? And if I know Dan Reardon, I feel like it's going to be the champion side of things. There's no excuses for losing to that to Austintown Fitch by any means. But are we going to talk about the first half of the tape or the second half of the tape? Because they were down by 35 at one point, and they brought it to a 1-touchdown game, 2-touchdown game, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, to me, they are the LA Rams. I mean, they've got all the Showtime players, they've got all the pieces in place to make another run. But are they going to be able to bounce back from a devastating loss? The Las Vegas Raiders. This is an interesting one because the Raiders started off hot last year. They were everybody's pick, and then all of a sudden they just cooled quick. But they've got some new additions to their team. David Carr's got some guys to throw to.
I'm going Mineral Ridge.
That's exactly where I was leaning.
I'm going Mineral Ridge. They got some new pieces with Valley at quarterback. I think that this is an improved team from a year ago. And, Mineral Ridge, kind of same thing last year where they started off good. They hit conference play and kind of fell off the table a little bit. But, I think this is a different year for Mineral Ridge to where they're going to come out and they're going to showcase their talent in a different way.
Now let's do one more of these, and we can always come back to these in another show. The Buffalo Bills, Rich. I've got one picked out. It's the Canfield Cardinals. Great quarterback, mature quarterback. It's absolutely there.
People's the win.
People's choice. It's time. It's time to go on that roll and to really step up into what you possibly could be and what everybody thinks you are. So I think that is a perfect example of both the Bills and the Canfield Cardinals.
I'll agree.
All right, let's do one more since you agreed, jerk. Let's go. Oh, this one will throw you off. You ready?
Is it going to be
Philadelphia Eagles?
Eagles are tough. Give me Hubbard.
Oh, that's a cheap out.
Eagles.
You're a cheap out.
No, but I don't know. I don't think. Look at this one.
Niles. What does it say?
Niles, and Niles.
All right, here's another good one. The Cincinnati Bengals.
Ooh, the Bengals. All right. Good quarterback that's bursting onto the scene. I'm going to go with Ursuline here.
Okay.
I would pick Ursuline. Good quarterback. Erickson bursting onto the scene. I'm going to go with Ursuline.
Very interesting. Gerard here because you don't know what you're, and not just because you got Ben Gala at quarterback, which makes a lot of sense for the Bengals. But if you look at the Bengals, I think there's a lot of people that still aren't sold on them being the AFC champions. And I think there's a lot of people that aren't sold necessarily on Gerard being the NE8 champs this year. So it's you against the world. And I think when you look at Gerard believes in Gerard, and they travel well. Cincinnati travels well, and they've got good young talent that's going to be pretty hard to beat this year. And they're going to be in some dogfights, and it's going to be interesting. I think the Bengals will be in that too. So fun little exercise. I thought that was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Told you we didn't know where we were going. This was going to be a crapshoot today, but we appreciate everybody hanging out with us and naturally putting up with us. Let's take we're not going to take a break. We're going to go to the Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark, presented by Joe Dickey Electric. Anything commercial, residential, anything electrical, you need to go to DickeyElectric.com and set aside some time to have a professional come in so you don't go and mess up your whole life and you can't feel your fingers anymore. I think that's how it works. I've never been electrocuted, so except that one time when I touched an electric fence. That was a bad experience. So it's time for the Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark? The Joe Dickey Electric What's Your Spark, presented by Joe Dickey Electric. Richard, what's your spark?
I guess my spark would be getting to meet head coach for Canfield last night, doing an interview with him. Mike Bailey, who's done an incredible job of that program, starting off 5-1, and just a great human being. Got a chance to kind of sit down and talk with him for a little bit after the match before we did the interview, and really cares about the community and the kids. And, he's been a local guy. He's been at Salem. He coached both the boys and the girls at South Range. So he's been a focal point in the community for a long time, but, just a great guy, and, got a chance to meet him, and hopefully we're going to have him come on at some point and do a coach's corner. So, that'll be exciting.
100%. We got that interview. Sorry we didn't get to it today, Rich, but you'll be able to find all that interview that Richie did on ysnlive.com, and of course our social media pages as well. So stay on the lookout for that. Brian's brother says, my spark is how much I love Niles. They Red Dragons are my love and will always be my love.
That's for sure, O'Brien.
It has to be. Absolutely has to be. Is that me or you? That's you. I got one for you. And I found out right before the show went on the air. Jake from State Farm is not actually named Jake. His name is Kevin. And that just ruined it all for me.
You know who that was calling?
Who?
Romo.
About what?
I hope saying he's back in for the track meet.
Back in for Saturday. Romo, don't be a disappointment. But you know why? Because he wants to be on the Hake train now. He wants to get behind the scenes and shoot the what do we call it? The not audible call. Level up. He wants to shoot level up with us. So I'm disappointed, man. Jake from State Farm's name's Kevin. So I'm out. I'm out on the Jake from State Farm stuff. You can keep that stuff. That's fake news now. But not much else is not fake news. So Richie, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you spending an hour. More than that, you've spent 3 hours on the network here today, yapping it up. And you always do such a good job, man. Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate all of you as well. Make sure you stay tuned. We got lots of games coming up tonight on ysnlive.com. All you got to do is head over to the website, ysnlive.com, click on the live tab, and you got all the links at your disposal. For Richie, I'm DJ. We'll see you tomorrow on the Power Hour. YSN thanks you for watching.